I'm not doing so hot today. I'm having a bit of an existential crisis here. You see, I'm a platformer fan, and that means, by extension, I have to be a Mario fan. And yeah, I am. Mario is my childhood. I mean, look at how many of his games I have. That's a lot of Mario games. I can't count them. Oh, wait, I forgot one. This would be an important one to forget. But, oh yeah, I also have this from like a Macy's. I'm not supposed to have this, but I do. Like, that's how much of a Mario fan I am. Anyway, but despite all of these games that I own, I'm gonna be honest, guys, I can't take this emotional turmoil for much longer. Not to mention, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is coming out in just a few days. Wait, a few days? Wow, okay, I really gotta play these classic Mario games soon, or I won't be able to judge that game accurately. So yeah. Let's go. I just said that. I can't believe I just said that. That's so embarrassing, God. Super Mario Bros. Was the first real side-scroller. And before you say Pitfall, it doesn't scroll, so it's not a side-scroller. And with that in mind, it's still pretty good, but yet still very primitive. Only 3 power-ups, like 5 pieces of music, and so few level gimmicks I can count them. The level design is also very experimental. Like, I know how everyone, including my own brother, talks about how 1-1 does an excellent job at teaching the player how to play the game, and that's valid. But then you get to World 3 too. In this level, there's a star in this block at the beginning, a pit in the middle, and the rest is literally just a straight line of enemies. Nintendo really be out here making refreshing levels in the year 1985. But experimental doesn't necessarily mean bad. Maybe it's because there's so few of them, but I think the water levels in this game are great. There's no slowness to it. You move just as fast as you do in the normal levels. The only challenge is the bloopers, but they're so unpredictable that it feels great to slip past them. There are also these castle levels where you have to pick the correct path, and if you don't, the castle loops in on itself. I don't even know how they did that. Well, I mean, I do. But it's so smooth, I can't help but admire it. The physics are also sublime. Mario games were known for having great feeling controls, but even this early on, the amount of movement you can do here is just perfect. It makes it so that even when you hit World 7 and you start putting bullet bills everywhere, you're still well equipped for the situation. Not World 8, though! I don't care what anyone says. World 8 is a massive difficulty spike. Like, I can't name a bigger difficulty spike than this. There's no checkpoints and only 2 mushrooms through the whole thing. There's stuff like this jump in 8-2 where you can't go full tilt because then you'll fall in the pit, but you also can't go too slow because then you won't make the jump. So it honestly feels like an RNG jump. The end level staircases, which have been a reward the whole game, a safe haven, the light at the end of the tunnel, can and will kill you here. Many times. They knew full well how hard this was too, as they put an infinitely respawning 1-up in 8-2. They may not sound like a big deal, every Mario game has those. But most 1-ups in this game are in hidden blocks that only appear if you get there without dying. Which sounds like a cool concept, but if the levels are easy, you're likely to get there and find the 1-up. But in the hard levels, you just assume there's nothing there and won't check. So it's flawed. If you ever want to do a no-death reward again, Nintendo, make it visible. Anyway, yeah, World 8 feels like a chore that made me actively not want to play the game. When I started this game, I made a vow to not use save states, and I only use warp zones to restore my progress. But World 8 was taking so long that I had to break it. I used save states at the beginning of every level. It was so bad. I'd rather live the rest of my life in guilt, knowing I didn't beat Mario 1 without save states to keep playing it. But when you finally get through Bowser's Maze and save the princess... I actually haven't done it yet. There's also a hard mode after you beat it where all the Goombas are replaced with buzzy beetles that no one talks about, but I'm not going to break the trend. Overall, Mario 1 is definitely a good start, but nothing mind-blowing. Out of 10. Alright, next on the list is... Do I really have to play this one? We all know the story about this, right? I don't have to suffer through this. No, some of you don't. Kids these days. Alright. Let's go. So, after SMB1, Miyamoto-san made an arcade version called Versus Super Mario Bros. Being a coin guzzler, the levels were altered to be more difficult, and some brand new ones were added with this philosophy in mind. It turned out Miyamoto-san loved making these more difficult levels. So when it was time to make the sequel to the SMB1, he made Hot Garbage. This isn't Hot Garbage as in the level design is poorly thought out, or the controls are bad, or anything like that. This is what happens when some of the greatest minds in gaming come together to calculate the best possible way to screw you over. You can see this as early as the first level, where the first mushroom kills you. Sure, there's one in this block here, but how likely are you to find it? The rest of the level seems pretty tame, but it doesn't get any easier from here on out. In my time playing, I encountered platforms that fall at the speed of light, bloopers above water, the opposite, springs that launch you so high you can't see where you were going to land, and a part where you have to blindly jump at hidden blocks next to a pit to progress, and if you scroll the screen too far, you can't make the jump anymore. After being stuck in that section for what felt like hours, the rest of the World 2 was a cakewalk comparatively. But then in World 3-1, I bounced on one of those super springs, and accidentally flew over the goal. Wanting to make the best of it, I ran to the right in hopes of finding a secret warp zone, and I did. But this one always sends you back to the start of the game. It was at this point that I was fed up with the trash, but I barely scratched the surface of the statistical design this game bolsters. Later levels are filled with wind, piranha plants that don't slow down, and hammer bros that run straight for you. And 100% of the game, you have to beat it 8 times. You could argue that I didn't play enough of it, that I stopped at World 3-1 and that's way too easy. I would counter-argue that, well, you kind of have a point, but like, is this really an unpopular opinion? I don't think it's a very unpopular opinion. In fact, Howard Phillips, the Nintendo of America's official game tester at the time, when the game came out, said this about the game. As I continued to play, I found that Super Mario Bros. 2 asked me again and again to take me a leap of faith, and that each of those leaps resulted in my immediate death. This was not a fun game to play. It was punishment. Undeserved punishment. I put down my controller, astonished that Mr. Miyamoto has chosen to design such a painful game. I think that sums it up perfectly. The Japanese version of Super Mario Bros. 2, eventually known as the Lost Levels here in America, is an undeserved punishment that no one should subject themselves to. Out of 10. Last thing I'll mention is you can play as Luigi single player this time. It needs different physics, with a much higher jump, but the cost of just slippery traction. Remember how I praised the first game for how well it controls, allowing for ultra precise movement? Don't play as Luigi. After Howard Phillips realized he just played Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, he informed the Nintendo of America president, Minoru Arakawa, that the game would not sell well. Not only was the level design terrible, but also the graphics were too similar to the original game. How times have changed. So, Nintendo Japan took this game they made for a television company, reskinned the characters and some of the props, added a new boss so people wouldn't think they were reusing bosses, and bada bing bada boom, it's Super Mario Bros. 2. After people found out about the Switch, many thought that the American SMB2 was disingenuous, and debates about which is the true sequel to Super Mario Bros. Still happen today, I think. I haven't seen any recently, but I'd imagine that they'd still. But even if it wasn't a Mario game to start with, it certainly is one now. SMB2 introduced several mainstays in the Mario franchise, like Birdo, Ninjas, Shy Guys Instant Fits, Pokies, Bob-Ombs, and it's not like they picked a random game either. The original game, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, was designed by a lot of the people who worked on Mario. At one point in development, Miyamoto even thought it was too similar to Mario. So since it is undoubtedly also a sequel to Super Mario Bros., let's take a look at it. The story this time is that Mario has a dream about some kingdom called Subkong, and that's being invaded by a giant frog, and then he finds a door to it in the real world when having a picnic with his friends or something. I don't know, man, just go. The mechanics in this game are a little different, as you'd expect from a game that wasn't designed as a Mario one. In Super Mario Bros., you had to stomp on enemies and hit question blocks for power-ups. In SMB2, you now have to pull vegetables out of the ground and throw them at enemies to attack. You can also just straight up stand on enemies and ride them, or pick them up to throw at other enemies. There are power-ups, but they're certainly different. Mushrooms can now be found in this negative world that you access by throwing a potion, and they give you a permanent extra hit point for the rest of the level, and a full heal. Why yes, that is a traditional health system in my 2D Mario game. And the stopwatch stops all enemies for a short period of time. Stopwatches can only be obtained by plucking out 5 ripe vegetables, and those are less common than you think. I only got one of my playthrough, and it certainly wasn't beneficial to have it in the level I was in. The only power-up that's the same as the original is the star, which you can grab by picking up 5 cherries. This game also has multiple playable characters. Mario is an all-rounder. Luigi can jump high, but isn't very fast. Toad is fast and can pick up objects quickly, but can't jump very high. And Peach has below-average stats, but can hover in the air. I just played as Mario for the whole game because I'm basic, but there were definitely sections where certain characters would be better. For example, there's this one section in 2-1 where you have to dig up a bunch of sand. See, since Toad is so strong, he would have an easier time in this section. There's also a bot I noticed that you could only access with Luigi, so that's cool. Oh yeah, pipes are pots now. The game only has 3 levels per world, but they are longer and definitely harder due to the more complex mechanics. And the vertical sections. After spending an hour on World 1, I decided to turn on an Infinite Lives code, and I have no regrets. Look, this game was $40 at launch. It was supposed to last you days, maybe even weeks, because at that price, these kids would have had to save up money to buy it, and wouldn't be able to afford another game for weeks. I don't have weeks, okay? My college applications are due in just a couple months, so I don't have time to play World 4 20 times just because they made Fry Guy the hardest boss in the game, and... Oh yeah, the bosses. They all have unique ways of defeating them, and it's cool how you start to develop strategies as you fight them over and over. Like, originally, Mouser seems really hard, but because by the time you pick up a bomb throw it, he's on the other side of the platform and dodges the explosion. But then you realize you can catch the bombs out of the air, and suddenly he still dodges the explosion. Bless. Thankfully, there's no huge difficulty spike here either. World 7 only has 2 levels, and both feel like a natural progression in difficulty. World 7-2 is a maze level, just like the final level of SME1, but again, it's more natural. Instead of the level just looping, doors lead back to places you've already been. You can go back through the doors, and they're all placed in different places of each other, and yeah, this feels like an actual castle, no complaints. After a warp fight, which was hard, but still way easier than Fry Guy, you free the subcontinents, or what they're called, apparently they're just called subcontinent. Oh, look at that, it was all a dream! Definitely much better than Super Mario Bros. 1. Still okay, though. Out of 10. Super Mario Bros. 3 was bigger than all of the previous American Mario games combined. People often credit this as being one of the best 2D platformers ever made, so let's see if it lives up to that. So the story is that the kings of the 7 mushroom worlds have all been turned into beasts by Bowser's sons, the Koopalings. Go save them! The first immediate change is the world map. Yes, that's right, a world map. You are no longer just funneled from level to level. This is a huge step forward. It now almost feels like a world, and we're not quite there yet, but we will be soon, don't worry. And it adds way more than just allowing you to choose the level you visit, as you can use items before you enter levels, find secrets, play bonus games, and have less punishing game overs. You see, if you game over in this game, you restart at the beginning of the world, but all castles you beat stay defeated, and these castles will often open a way to a pipe, which is connected to the start. It's a brilliant way of introducing checkpoints. The physics are different too, your jump is a lot higher and you don't stop as quickly. Now that suits the more exploration-focused level design, and they aren't bad, but I can see why people speedrun Mario 1 more. The big selling point of this game is its new power-ups, and how it has 4 new power-ups. There's the Raccoon Leaf, which allows Mario to fly after sprinting, gently float, and whack enemies. There's the Tanuki suit that does that, and also lets you turn into an invincible statue. There's the Frog suit, which sucks on land, but lets you go really fast in water. And the Hammer suit, which can block fire while crouching, and kill things you aren't supposed to be able to kill. This all sounds great, but 3 of these are extremely underutilized. You can only find them in toad houses and secret areas. I only got to use each a couple of times. I didn't even get to use the frog suit in the water world. Like, hello? They are good power-ups, but it would have been nice to actually use them. Yeah, toad houses. Toad houses exist, right? I accidentally said that, but toad houses exist. They appear in the world map. There are these ones that give you an item, these that you can play for 1-ups, and these which you can play for many items. Normally, you would gradually fill out this board over the course of the game, but I just used the book I had because I wanted to be like a kid in the 90s reading a guide. I want to see what that felt like, and I got them all easily. Most of the themes are pretty typical. There's a water world, an ice world, a desert world, a plains world, but there's a couple of unique ones, like Giant Land and Pipe Land. My favorite was the Sky World. It starts with a few levels in your typical ground setting, but then you play this tower level. This level is cool on its own as you ascend onto the roof made of bricks, really cool set pieces, and then you go in this pipe and this blew me away. It sounds so simple, but it's so unexpected to have actual world building like this. Probably the highlight of the game for me was just this. At the end of every world, there's an airship which has the Koopaling in it. This is always an auto-scroller. Yay. And if you fail this, it moves to a different part of the map. This sucks. You may think, oh, it's no big deal. You've beaten all the levels already, so you can just walk back to it. Remember that pipe I mentioned? There was this one time where there was a really hard level that I didn't feel like playing. Shocker. And I used a Lakitu Cloud to skip it. The original name is just a mistranslation. I'm going to be calling them Lakitu Clouds, even if I refer to them as Jugamos my initial playthrough. But then I failed the airship and it flipped me the bird on the way out. You're probably wondering what a Lakitu Cloud is. Well, there are a variety of rare assist items that mostly just affect the world map. The only exception is the P-Wing, which is like a raccoon leaf, but you can fly forever. There's also the Lakitu Cloud, which I mentioned, as allows you to skip levels. But if you have to go back the other way, the level must be completed. Which is why I was in a bind. I really didn't want to deal with Boss Bass guy. Can you blame me?
There's also the hammer, which can break rocks on the map, the anchor, which prevent all airships from flying, and I don't have any footage of it because you can only get them from white mushroom houses, which spawn if you collect enough coins in the level, and I either didn't understand the assignment, got lied to, or forgot. And the music box, which makes all Hammer Bros on the map sleep. However, the Hammer Bros fights are very simple, and often give you really good items, like a Lakitu Cloud. So I only used this once when I didn't know what it did, and I reset after. Overall, the assist items add a new layer of strategy to the game, even if most of them are mid. To show the strategy, I'll tell you what I did for the final world. After saving all 7 of the kings, the usual heavily mistranslated letter from Peach is replaced with a letter from Bowser, saying he kidnapped her while you were running around helping the kings. This will not stand, so Mario heads to Darkland. They nailed the horror aesthetic here. Skulls are everywhere. Hands come out of the ground to kill you. And the scariest thing of all, auto-scrollers. Yeah, the majority of World 8 is auto-scrollers. In fact, there are only 2 normal levels in the whole thing. Despite the larger amount of levels, it's actually way easier than SMB1's final world. This is due to a couple of reasons. First is that after you beat a vehicle level, it doesn't show up again, even if you game over. After the first few are defeated, most of the world can be run across safely. You'll still have to deal with those hands every time, but you can get leaves from them, so I often did them on purpose. And number 2 is, I kept failing at 8-1 over and over. But then I realized I had 2 clouds left, and there was nowhere else to use them. So I did the rare double cloud skip. It seems like you were intended to do this too. If you fail the fortress, you get sent back here and have to do the levels again. But there's a pipe down here that leads to nowhere. But if you enter it, it saves your position. So the clouds work if you do that. After looking up a level map, because I didn't want those clouds to be wasted, I beat the fortress and was on the final stretch. I used a P-Wing on the airship, because I had so many, and boom, we're there. Bowser's Castle. This level is a lot shorter than SMB1's, but no less difficult. After you have to lure Bowser in the lava, in what is quite possibly the only difficult boss fight in this entire game, I mean, the Koopalings don't even, hurt you when you jump on their shell, it's pathetic. Peach makes a joke at your expense and then ditches you. But it's okay, because it's all an act. I have one main problem with this game, and it's not even one that matters anymore. There's no saving. I could excuse it with the past few games, because one was shortened to accommodate no saving, and the other is just trolling us. It clearly didn't use a no save angle because it definitely could have. It was a disk system game. It just hates us. But Super Mario Bros. 3 is so much longer. And on top of that, Mario 1 and 2 had secret warp zones to almost act like a save function. If you reset the console but remember where the warp zone was, you could just go there. Super Mario Bros. 3 has that too, but it's so cryptic. Here are 3 warp whistles. In order to find the first one, you need to hold down on a white block in 1-3 for 5 seconds, and then you'll slip behind the goal and get a warp whistle. Excuse me? Not any block, mind you, just the white one. This is some untrue playground rumor stuff. Even if you're told this, you likely wouldn't believe it. The game gives you a hint for this one, but how does this help? Okay, it's back here, behind the darkness, I get it. How do I get there? It's so stupid. It's so stupid. All in all, though, Super Mario Bros. 3 is a very good video game, and I definitely recommend it. Out of 10. And finally, we have Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Originally, this review was just going to be about this game, as not only because I was overwhelmed by the Herculean task of covering 5 of the most universally praised 2D platformers in one video, but also because the computer that set me back over $1,000 apparently can't run 30-year-old games in OBS at the same time. But thankfully, it seems RetroArch is just built different, and I can play all the games without issue on it. Most of the time. I still don't know why it does this. It runs Bugsnax perfectly fine. The first thing you'll notice when booting it up is, yes! We have save files! Took them long enough. This is also the first game in the series to actually tell you the plot in the game itself. Cool stuff. And there's cool cutscenes too. Immediately after that story cutscene, we get to look at the new world map. And this is so good. Instead of just levels in a video game, Dinosaur Land feels like a large, interconnected world to explore. Like when you go up to the Yellow Switch Palace, for example, you can see the next world in the distance. Everything makes sense. Oh, there is water here because Mario is in a pond on the map. Or, oh, this world is underground because Mario walked into a massive cave. Most games nowadays can't even do this right. This is a big deal. And the world's complete with a ton of secrets to discover. You see, while Super Mario Bros. 3 secrets were just finish this level with your coin count being a specific number, Certain levels now have secret exits which lead to new paths. The level has a red icon when there's more than one exit too, so you don't have to guess which ones have secrets. These secret exits can lead to bonus levels, switch palaces which can fill in certain blocks for the rest of the game. That's cool. A level that's literally just, okay, here's some power-ups. Have fun. Or Star Road. Yeah, Mario World's warp zone is a lot less cryptic than Mario 3. All you have to do is stay up here in Donut Plains 1, then put the key in the hole, then Ghost House, fly up here and kill the secret boss, Star Road, get it, and now you're at Bowser's Castle. See? Easy. I should probably talk about the actual game now. The physics and level design are great, as you'd expect. The many power-ups from Mario 3 are gone, and replaced with one Cape Feather. It has a similar starting motion. You run on a straight away to take off, but instead of having limited vertical movement, you now have unlimited horizontal movement with the cost of hard control. This is much better, and rewards the player for the skill way more than the last one did. And then there's Yoshi. Yoshi doesn't add as much complexity as I thought he would, but that's good. He's certainly more complex in this game than he is in any future titles, as colored shells mean different effects. If you eat a red shell, you'll spit out fire. If you eat a blue shell, you'll gain wings, which is busted, especially because you can spit out and regulp them to avoid the timer. And yellow shells cause Yoshi to do some kind of stomp move. I don't know. I never actually saw any kind of yellow Koopas during my playthrough. They're really rare. I don't really know if this is a hot take or not, but I actually like SMB3's graphics more than this game. I know it's more detailed and stuff, but I don't know. Mario Stage just looks off to me. I like the simplicity of SMB3 more. After castle number 6, all that's left is a sunken ghost ship. That's odd, but after hitting the mysterious orb at the bottom... I kind of wish the game didn't tell you this. Like, say, oh, but that's weird, but there's only a ghost ship left. Weird. Don't just tell us the Valley of Bowser's waiting. That ruins the whole thing. And after a few levels, which you'd normally have to beat a lot of levels, not just a few, but I accidentally skipped most of it, so that's cool. Funk you, Larry. I didn't need footage of you anyway. You reach Bowser's Castle. In it, you're given a choice between 5 doors twice, and then you get into one final section. I died a lot here, but only because I kept kicking the 5th door, which is really tight, and if I had done something else, it probably wouldn't be that bad. I definitely recommend doing the Infinite Life Glitch in World 6 getting here. Not only do they help a lot, like, I lost half of them, but it's also one of the funniest live glitches in Mario games, next to that one in SM64 DS where you just hit this pole with a Mega Mushroom and... Oh yeah, that's a classic. Anyway, before long you get to the big door, and then... Oh my god, this final boss. It's absolutely perfect. I popped off after I beat him because it was so good. Most of my playthrough of SFW, I thought it was going to be a close race between those last two. I thought you could really go either way, but ultimately the little things, like a save battery and not having the last world full of wall scrollers, would edge Mario World out. But this ending alone made me reconsider that. It made me realize how good of a game I just played. And how, no matter how hard it tries, Mario Wonder isn't going to be able to top it. Because half of Mario World's beauty is in its simplicity. Dinosaur Land feels like a large interconnected world because there aren't that many themes. Besides Vanilla Dome and One Valley of Bowser, which are underground worlds, and Forest of Illusion, which has forest levels, every world is a plains world with occasional water, castle, and Boo House levels. Having one new power-up as opposed to 4 is good, as it allows the power-up to be fleshed out more and have more complex controls. Yoshi being deceptively simple is also good, as it complements the game's simple controls and ensures that he's not too hard to learn. The final level, not being as much of a challenge as I thought it would be, is also good because the previous Mario game's final levels felt like chores. Out of 10. That being said, I do look forward to playing it after 100% completing Sonic Superstars and 5 different save files. It's kind of weird that Mario World gave me the strongest reaction that I've had to an ending in a video game. I kind of thought Mario Galaxy would do that because of its orchestral music and 3D gameplay. Why didn't it? Wait. Oh, I forgot about that! I've still got a long way to go before I redeem myself as a Mario fan.